And welcome to Mike Ferry TV. It is the last couple days of April, and we're going right into May, so I hope the first 4 months for you have been great. Okay, I started a little campaign with all of our coaching clients about 60 days ago. And the campaign revolves around the words Think 10. Think 10, Think 10. And of course, for those not involved in coaching, what in the world is Mike Ferry talking about thinking 10? And what I'm referring to is I'm trying to convince all of our coaching clients and each of you that watches Mike Ferry TV that the real issue in real estate, more than ever before, is our ability or capabilities to take listings. And the only way we can take listings is to, of course, go on listing appointments. And to go on listing appointments, you have to have a strong system in place to get those appointments, which is, of course, what we keep teaching and sharing with you. So the Think 10 is I'm trying to convince every real estate agent we work with to go on, sit down, pay attention, don't jump, don't turn this off, don't get mad. Go on 10 listing appointments every month, 10 a month. Because if you're going on 10, even if you're not a great agent yet, you're going to take 4 or 5, and if you're good, 6 or 7, and if you're really good, 7 or 8 listings a month. We both know, you and I, and your broker knows, and the associates in your office know that the biggest challenge in real estate today nationwide, any place in North America, is a listing shortage. And I'm going to talk about that in a few minutes with you on how to solve that problem. But see, the truth is, one of the basic concepts in real estate is we have to understand that the person that controls the inventory controls the community, controls the town, controls the area. Because in a sales industry, which we're involved in, if there is no inventory or something to sell, we, of course, cannot do our job at the highest level. Businesses, organizations, retail, real estate companies have to have inventory, or in our case, listings, to have a viable business. So a real estate company or a real estate agent that doesn't have listings technically relies upon somebody else to furnish the inventory for us to do our job, which in our case means we are then working with buyers instead of working with sellers. And we've talked about that time and time again for quite a long time. So what we want to look at is the fact that I'm trying to convince all of our good customers to think about how to get 10 good listing appointments a month. Now, I've had a couple of them. You're going to chuckle when I say this. I've had a couple send me an email and say, but Mike, I've only gone on 3 listing appointments in January, February, and March, and you want me to get 10 a month. Okay, listen carefully. Now, watch what I'm saying. It's a process. It's a process. It's a process where we're learning how to do our job in a different manner. It's a process where we're learning how to do what we have to do in a different manner. It's a process where we have to learn a different set of skills, a different set of sales behaviors to go on more appointments. The challenge for so many agents today is you're demanding from your broker 80, 85, 90, 95 or more in terms of commission. You're getting big checks, $3,000, $5,000, $10,000, $20,000 per transaction. The need on your part financially to go on a lot of appointments is minimal because you're making a lot of money, and as a result, the need to go out and do your job at a high level isn't as strong as it was, say, in 2010. So what we're challenged with is inventory. You are the solution to the problem. Because if you're working with the Mike Ferry organization and if you're watching Mike Ferry TV, I'm always challenging you to learn how to become a better listing agent. Now, with that being said, we know there's no doubt that there are 2 primary issues. Knowing what to do each day if you want to get an appointment. That's the big if. And then second, knowing what to say when you're on the appointment. So if you know what to do and you know what to say, you're miles ahead of the agents in your marketplace, because most agents are, of course, taking the path of least resistance and therefore showing property to buyers. Now remember, if you're working with a buyer will buy a house because of the house. But a seller lists a home because of the skills of the agent. So the process is different. So if you've only been on a few listing presentations this year, don't worry about my saying 10. Worry about how do I add one listing appointment per month? Or how do I add 2? How do I add 4 to my monthly total of listing appointments? Because it may take 3 months, 6 months, a year before you start maximizing your performance. But when you do, believe me, you're going to be a much happier person and a more successful, productive person than you had been in the past. So it's a process. It takes time. Accept that. Now, with that being said, every year in the end of April, May, and June on the West Coast, I do a tour, and I do about 60 3-hour seminars on listing property with our best broker clients in Seattle, California, Nevada, Arizona. I've done this for years. Up until 2 years ago, I did the same thing on the East Coast in September, October. And I'm not doing that now because we're not doing that East Coast retreat at this time. Well, what I want to do with Mike Ferry TV over the next several weeks, since a lot of you will not have the opportunity, for whatever reason, to be at one of our tour events, I'm going to take you right through each week what I'm doing on the tour and what I'm teaching the agents. And I will say this to you, and I don't say this to sound egotistical, but in doing these tour events, if, for example, we have 150 people in the room, at the end of my presentation, I ask the people if they would like to go to my Superstar Retreat. And in most cases, because of the strength of my presentation on how to take listings, we're having any place from, say, out of 150, 50, 60, 70 people buying a ticket to the retreat. If you want to go to our retreat, I am thrilled to death if you were attending. But I'm going to, through Mike Ferry TV, over the next several weeks, teach you what I'm teaching them. So let's start with the first thing we talk about. Why is the inventory so low today? There's probably 100 really valid factors as to why the inventory is so low. But I want to look at 3 of them very carefully because I think they'll make sense to you. Number 1, new home construction is a lot more expensive today for the builders than it was 5, 10, 15 years ago. And that is more expensive because the land costs keep going up. As the land costs go up, and let's take California, Nevada, Arizona, let's take some of the more populated states where there is a lot of density, the land cost has gotten very high. Now, here's what I think you need to understand as a residential agent. When new home builders are building subdivisions, 5 homes, 10 homes, 20 homes, whatever that number may be, as new homes are built, the demand for residential resales increases. Why? Your neighbor, your friend, one of your clients sees a little subdivision, new homes. They stop in, they look at it, they get excited, they want to buy it. They have to sell their home first. So the new home construction actually creates a good part of the residential resale market. Without new home construction, the residential resale market is going to diminish, which we've all seen the last several years. So if you take a place like California, for example, where not only is the land cost high, but then you have government regulations that are probably 25,000 pages that the builder has to adhere to make sure that they can build the homes they want. So here's what I want you to think about. Building new homes creates a residential market. Hope that in your market, new home construction takes place. Second reason why our listing inventory is down, in my opinion, and this is a tough one. A major portion of all the people in North America lost a major portion, if not all, their equity in their homes during the recession from 2007 to 2012. Most of that equity has now returned, or at least a major portion. They're happy. So let's say they were in Las Vegas, Nevada. They bought a home in 2006 for $300,000. By 2010, unfortunately, that home, which was $300,000, was worth $100,000. If they were able to keep it, which hopefully they were, now they're looking at the fact that home, the equity has come back, demand is higher than ever for resales, and now their home at $300,000 is worth $500,000. but the home is now 13 years old. So husband and wife say, let's go buy a new house. Let's go find out what's for sale. Let's buy a new property newer than ours. Let's upgrade. Well, they have equity, great, but the monthly income they have probably can't support the payment because the home they want to buy is now $750,000. So the challenge we have today, and the mortgage industry is facing this challenge, is how do they finance some of the people that want to buy, that have an equity, have a good job, but they want to move from their $450,000 home to $750,000 and they can't afford the payment. It absolutely really stops the residential listing market that you're involved in. Number one, new home builders. Number two, they just can't afford to upgrade. But then the third thought, don't get mad, don't get angry, just listen, okay? As long as there's an abundance of buyers in the market, and there is an enormous abundance of buyers in the market, agents, not you, will often take the path of least resistance, which means showing a buyer is a lot easier than working with a seller. So what happens is a lot of agents start working with buyers. So they do less production because you're going to do less production with buyers almost every time. But they're getting commission checks. And as a result, they've stopped the process of looking for sellers. Now remember, this is critical. I talk about this on my tour. Buyers find agents. Sellers are found by agents. Two totally different processes, okay? As an agent, buyers will find you through an open house, a walk-in, through advertising, promotion, whatever. But you have to go find a seller. That's a different process. So agents over the last 5 years have got a little fat and happy, got a little complacent because there's so many buyers in the marketplace. So they've quit looking for sellers. So I have said for the last 40 years that the ability for agents to go out and look for sellers actually is what creates the residential resale listing market. If we have 1.3 million agents, for example, in the U.S., and if even 20% of them, you watching this show today, were actually looking for sellers every day, the listing problem would be resolved in 3 or 4 months. There'd be an abundance of inventory. But agents have stopped prospecting. And why do you stop prospecting? Because you have a lot of buyers. However, you don't have enough inventory to sell the buyers a house. Interesting dilemma. But second, every seminar, every speaker, every place in the country is telling you don't have to prospect. Why prospect? You don't need to prospect. Don't prospect. Just do what we say. Well, I'm the only guy that's still telling you have to talk to people every day to make money in real estate, and that money's made through listing property. So I want you to watch this week's Mike Ferry TV every day. And I want you to think about what I've been saying. And I want you to study the fact that you can create for yourself a strong market. You can create for yourself a strong abundance of listings, but you're going to have to change some of your sales behaviors. So over the next probably 4 to 5 weeks, I'm going to each week take 15 minutes or so, maybe 20, and share with you some of the ideas I'm sharing with the tour, since I'm not going to see most of you on the tour. But in either case, hopefully I'm going to motivate you to take listings, A, and B, some of you will call my office and decide to go to the retreat, because at the retreat this year in July, 25, 50, 75, 100. I'm going to ask everybody to select which of those 4 numbers they want to do in annual listings taken. And then I'm going to spend 2 days on that. Then I'm going to spend 2 days on helping those that want to become a great presenter. My strength is teaching people how to present. In either case, I am glad you're watching Mike Ferry TV this week. Watch it every day, and I'll talk to you next week. Have a great week. Bye-bye.